You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I think we're going to blend what we're excited about and the ACC outlook here, because I think I'm more excited for the season now that Georgia Tech beat Florida State, because I think it opens the door for another ACC team. Sure. You know, there was a consensus 2 to 3 teams. It was Florida State, Clemson, and Miami. Those were the 3 favorites to win the conference. Now that Florida State lost to Georgia Tech, all right, that's a conference loss. So they're not only just 0-1, they're 0-1 in the conference.
Correct. Yeah.
Clemson has to face Georgia.
Yeah. So
they're probably going to lose. And if they win, if they beat Georgia, then we could just chalk them up as a team that's just, they're going to probably run away with the ACC at that point if they can beat Georgia. But they're probably not. So you're looking at them being 0-1. And I know Florida has the worst schedule in the country. I mean, it's absolutely brutal. But they haven't lost a home opener since the 80s. It's been a long time since they've lost a home opener, and they're slight underdogs to Miami. That's a pick 'em game. You're looking at potentially the top 3 favorites in the conference.
Could all be 0-1. Yeah.
0-1. With one of them having a conference loss.
Right.
I think that opens the door for another team, because you can only have so many losses. It makes me more excited about Syracuse's season, because you just do the math. I mean, you can argue that Florida State probably is a better team than Syracuse, but it's math at that point. If Florida State loses 1 or 2 more conference games,
they're done.
If they lose 2 more, they're definitely done. If they lose 1 more, now they're in a dogfight to make the conference championship game.
Right.
So the door kind of opened up. And also with Georgia Tech, I take nothing away from them. And that is going to be a really tough game in week 2. I'm really excited for that one. But Georgia Tech, I don't really take seriously to win the ACC. And the reasoning is not because of Georgia Tech themselves. Their schedule's awful. I don't have it off the top of at the top of my head, I know they play Georgia.
It's a tough schedule. I
think they play Clemson, Notre Dame, Miami, NC State. They have maybe the worst schedule in the ACC. I was telling you offline, I think if Georgia Tech and Syracuse swap schedules, that Georgia Tech would have a better chance.
That's fair.
Of making the playoff.
Yeah.
Making the playoff. But I don't take Georgia Tech seriously enough to actually be a college football playoff contender or even an ACC contender, because their schedule is so bad. So they're going to be one of those good 6 or 7 win teams that obviously is going to be tough for Syracuse. And that's a game that I'm really looking forward to.
Oh yeah. That's if you're asking me the games I'm most excited about, again, obviously this is all on paper, but yeah, I would have said Georgia Tech even before their win over the Seminoles last weekend overseas. Certainly at NC State, which is supposed to be one of the better teams. I believe the season finale is home against Miami.
Yeah.
Again, I think the game at UNLV could be a tricky one. They're a pretty good team, and going to the West Coast, and it'll be interesting to see how, they handle traveling out west. I believe do they travel to Cal this year?
Yeah, they do. I was on Cuse Sports Talk last week.
Yes,
and I said that the sneaky one that they could lose is at Cal.
Sure.
Because I don't know if Cal's really a great team, but I think going to California is not easy.
When you factor in traveling and the time zone, and all that, it's a fact. How big of a factor, we'll see. But it's going to be interesting to see that kind of dichotomy, that kind of thing in terms of not just Syracuse, but ACC teams in general going from east to west or west to east. And it's okay, this team is really better on paper, but they traveled far away, and did they lose? That could become a factor. And I agree. And I'm pretty sure, again, not that I care about preseason stuff, but Cal was slotted ahead of Syracuse in the preseason poll. I'm pretty sure. Actually,
I don't have it off the top of my head.
They were 10, and they got 2 first place votes, which is pretty interesting. Georgia Tech was 9. They got 1 first place vote. Yeah, they're all, and obviously all the, kind of the usual suspects. But no, the trip to Cal could be tough. Virginia Tech could be a very good team. I don't know how I feel about Pittsburgh. I mean, they're always in bruising battles with Syracuse, but they stunk last year, so we'll see how that goes. But no, there's some fun games on the schedule. Just got to go one game at a time, and I know that's what Fran Brown is preaching. He definitely seems like the type of guy that is just like, I'm focused on this week of practice and this game, and I'm not thinking about anything beyond that.
Well, that's the correct mindset to have. I mean,
I agree.
See, here's the thing. Me and you, like, we're not playing the games. We're not coaching the games. We're just talking about it. So we can do what we want. We can look ahead at the schedule.
Correct.
But if you're the head coach of whatever college or pro team or even high school team, I don't care what level you are, you're always kind of focused on what's ahead. Even when I was playing high school hockey or my competitive travel days earlier in my life, I was only looking to I can only look so far ahead. I would only look at like maybe one or two games, and you can never really take an opponent lightly. No. So I think Ohio is a good test to start because it's what I would put that in the category of it's a should-win game. Like, you should win this game. And not only should you win, you should probably win by a pretty big margin. You're a 17.5-point favorite at home against a group of 5 team. But they are a 10-win group of 5 team the last 2 years.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
All right, here's your first obstacle. Like, it's not really a challenge, it's an obstacle. Let's assume that they pass it with flying colors, and I think they will. I think Syracuse is going to win by 30+.
Let's do it.
Then you got Georgia Tech in week 2, and after they just beat Florida State, man. Could they could be ranked?
Yeah, but I think they've got Georgia State at home this week.
They're going to win.
So if they're 2-0, having beat the preseason number 10 team, I would assume they'll be ranked.
I think so.
I would assume.
It pains me to say this, but for every Syracuse fan out there, we need Florida State to roll Boston College. We need them to kill them this week, because if Florida State does, I think they play on Monday night. If they do really well against Boston College and they spank them, I think they will, honestly, because they're going to be mad about what happens. That Georgia Tech win looks a little bit better, which strengthens their case of being ranked. And then if you do the process of, I think it's like the associate property, whatever it is, of math,
right?
If Syracuse then beats Georgia Tech, the win looks better because Georgia Tech's win over Florida State looks better. So it's kind of like a weird dichotomy. Style points matter. So, how you do versus one team and how that team fares against that team, it all plays a factor. We got to root for Florida State this week. It pains me to say because I hate Florida State now, but we got to root for them. We need them to crush Boston College so that Georgia Tech is a ranked team. And then Georgia Tech comes to the Dome in week 2 and we beat them. How about that?
Cool. I like your plan, and you're way too smart for me. I have no idea what you were just talking about, but it's cool. I'm just kidding. I know what you're saying. I do. Yep. I mean, it's, we, like you said, was
it the math terminology?
I don't know. You're smart and I'm old. So I don't know. It's, we can, as commentators, writers, or whatever, we can look ahead and crystal ball things and look at all these scenarios. I mean, for me, sure, I'll be keeping my eye on what other ACC teams are doing, just like I did last weekend. But, I just want to see Syracuse play well, avoid injuries, win games, be exciting. The fan base clearly is excited. I really hope that there's a ton of people there on Saturday. We'll see.
I won't be there on this Saturday, but I do believe, because I'm scheduled to go back to Syracuse on Monday, that I will be, barring something, I think I'm going to be at that Georgia Tech game. That one, I'm licking my chops on that one. I'm
nice. So you're going to paint your whole body orange and
no. I'm not that big of a knucklehead. No, sorry. You know what? I'm sorry that I called those folks knuckleheads, but it's all meant in good humor.
Oh yeah.
Like, hey, you're painting your face, you're going shirtless or whatever. Like, what? I mean, I see the people in Buffalo when it's like negative 10 degrees in January for a playoff game. They're shirtless, jumping off tables. I'm a big fan and all, but I'm not going to do that.
Never was my jam, even when I was a student at Syracuse in the late 90s. Yeah, not my thing. But if you want to be naked and paint yourself in minus 5 degree wind chill factor in Buffalo, more power to you.
If you can handle it, sure. I mean, I personally can't paint my face. I've done it before, not for a game, but I put like face paint on and everything.
Sure. Yeah.
I end up getting itchy and I just scratch it.
Right. And then
it looks terrible. And it gets all over my fingers. And I'm just like, I basically swore off painting my face or just painting any part of I'll paint on a canvas.